Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
Welcome back to another exciting, action-packed, energy-filled Ask the Mayor. I am your host, the citizen advocate and inquisitor, Jim Melody. As always, I'm joined by the mayor of the great town of Weymouth, Robert Hedlund. What's your middle name, Robert G. Hedlund?
The Honorable Robert, what's your middle name?
Begins with an L.
Robert L. Robert L.
Office of the great and honorable Robert. Rob, what's your middle name?
Begins with an L.
Robert Lawrence?
You'll never guess it. Some other time.
Llewellyn. All right.
L.
L. Robert L. What is your middle name?
We'll get into that later.
Okay.
It begins with an L. It ends in an A.
Begins with an L and it ends in an A.
Luella? Laura? Anyway,
It's
Lori. Lori, finish. Lori.
and it's
Larissa.
5 letters. It's 5 letters, begins with an L and ends with an A.
Laura. I just said that.
Ever heard of a boy named Sue?
You ever heard of a boy named Sue?
You ever heard of a boy named Sue?
Robert Lawrence?
You'll never guess it. Some other time.
Llewellyn. All right.
Lara.
We'll have a competition here amongst our viewers. A prize.
Well, I'm thinking it's Finnish. I'm thinking it's ethnic. Is that fair to say?
Lane?
Let's go. L-I blank blank A.
Minus.
L-I and L-I
Blank, blank. S.
blank
Lang.
blank A. How does Linus ends with an S?
sorry,
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, Robert. Our first question today is about the intersection of North, Norton, and East Street, and it's from Russ Drysdale. You want to ask me if I know where North, Norton, and East Streets are? Well, that'll be another tease. All right, Robert, in a past episode, probably well over a year ago, might have been our last one, you, you mentioned an idea that was floating around about converting the intersection of North, Norton, and East Street with a roundabout. Is this something the town is still considering? Often people approach this intersection seemingly not knowing who is supposed to yield even though there is signage. It is not uncommon to see people that are supposed to have the right of way stopping for vehicles that are supposed to be yielding, and also not uncommon to see people blow through the yield sign. In the interim, maybe painted stop signs with the word yield painted on the ground might better define the intersection. And I think that's and I think that's it, Robert. So are you clear on where the intersection is?
You do know that the intersection in question, Jim, you've been through it probably like 8 million
North,
times.
is that where the cemetery is, right outside the Heights?
Yes.
And there's actually a picture here.
By the Abigail Adams house.
Russ, very involved in Dynamite question. I'm going to try to hold this
So
up for everybody to see.
yes, I noted on this.
Hold it up, okay?
I noted our
now I know
live
exactly
studio audience is getting restless.
Yes.
Listen,
yes.
I got the answer.
Abigail Adams. This is from Abigail Adams.
Yep.
All
So
right, it's
very
right there.
concisely, yes, we mentioned this on the air before that there was a potential for a rotary there, or a roundabout, I should say.
Okay.
There's definitely a distinction in DOT terms between a rotary and a roundabout.
Well, that's interesting.
A roundabout is generally smaller under the state view of things.
Okay.
It came about as an initiative from DPW. Ken and Cannell was looking at that, and we put a little effort into that, and it was determined by the engineers that the amount of town-owned land there would preclude the construction of a roundabout. There isn't enough room to construct one there. So that was then ruled out. The intersection is having a second look now under this initiative that the planning department has going on to see if there can be some improvements. And what is the program we're doing? Help me, Mary Heinrichs. You've publicized it. I'm blanking out right now. It's not the safe streets, it's the other thing, where they're identifying the high crash sites in town. We've got a grant where we're looking at that, and there's going to be proposed improvements to various unsafe intersections, which I believe this falls under. So it's getting a second look through that current program that is ongoing, that we've actually had a lot of public participation on, more so than I expected. So there could be another proposal that comes out of that there.
Bob, it's early, but this is my candidate for question of the day. This is a great question. That's a great initiative. This is a great idea. This is an issue. I drive through there. I agree with everything this man said, and you do obviously. So is there actually action?
It is a danger. I actually had that island. I mentioned this before on the show. I had that island, and I took that island on as an adopt-a island years ago, back in the 90s, and Can I use the word jackass on the air?
Come on, right here. I'm right here.
Oh, you can bleep it. You can bleep it. But there's actually a blank across the street. Here I am beautifying an island in his neighborhood. He's a very partisan guy, I believe. I'm 99% sure. And he would remove the Adopt Island sign and throw it in the woods because he didn't like me because of my party affiliation.
I like anybody who mows my lawn.
So-
you put a sign in my yard if you mow
So I
my
said,
lawn.
you know what? I'm not going to maintain the island after I did it for about 2-3 years.
Son of a gun. Wow. Well, this is a great question.
The world we live in.
Yeah. That's something
You can
else.
figure it out when you drive by there at election season, and you can guess the house based on the signage that's in the front yard. Next question. Come on, we really got to move. Jimmy. Come
But
on.
definitely a good
Come on.
idea. Thank you for that great follow-up. All right, and good luck with that. So we'll be talking about that.
We have a lot today.
But
Come on.
we'll be probably
Yes,
talking about that more in
yes,
the future.
let's
All
go.
right, here we go.
Go.
This is an Instagram question. This may be our first one. It's from Mary Blake. I thank you, Mary. Why can't the town of Weymouth have what Hingham and Marshfield have? Ooh, I'm on the edge of my seat. A swap shop. Residents bring items like books, sports items, vases, dishes. It allows other residents to pick up stuff for free, and it keeps items out of our landfills. This is an employee at the compost location.
This one I
Oh, there
actually-
is an employee at the compost location already.
This
So,
one I
swap.
actually saw before.
Okay.
Because it was on social media, and I actually kind of like the idea, but I don't think DPW is going to like it. There's not a lot of room there, for one thing. They're already very cramped there with the amount of refuse and compost that they take in. Maybe there's an alternative site. Maybe the building there in front could be repurposed. The neighbors probably don't like it because they don't like the activity that's going on there already, but it's something to consider. I like the idea. However, I'm offended with the reference to Hingham because how does she phrase it? Why can't the town of Weymouth have what Hingham and Marshfield have? That's how it started.
That's a wide open
So let
question.
me tell you what Hingham has that we don't have. Hingham has a DPW that barely functions. If you drive by the bathing beach, for instance, or look at the weeds growing up. Hingham has had 3 tax increases, overrides in the last 2 years.
Oh, ouch.
So, yep, Hingham has some things we don't have, but we're better off. I think you're getting a better bang for your buck in Weymouth than you would in Hingham right now, based on the services we provide. They don't even do trash pickup. They don't even do trash pickup.
What do you do with
Their
the trash?
programming at their senior center doesn't rival ours. The programming with the Recreation Commission commission doesn't rival ours. So there's a lot going on in Hingham, but not to the extent of what's happening in Weymouth on the plus side of the ledger.
It's settled. I'm moving to Weymouth.
Next.
Come on, everybody follow
Mary,
me.
no,
All right, here we go.
Mary, I think that deserves a follow-up, Mary. And we would suggest to our viewers maybe suggestions on other locations. That might not work there. There's really not any, there's not room there.
But I know we're trying to move fast, but I'm not really familiar with the concept of the swap shop. So you bring in something.
You go to the Hingham
an old-
you go to the Hingham landfill, and they got a section that you got stuff that people might want to use, and you leave it there. Cohasset does it. I don't know about Marshfields, but I know Cohasset does it.
Do you have to bring something
And
to take something?
volunteers, by the way, Mary, volunteers
Maintain it.
in Hingham staff it, not paid staff.
But
I know that for a fact.
Do you have to bring something to take something, or if you just want to
No,
get
you
some
just
stuff
leave
out of
it
your house,
there.
you just leave it there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting. Sounds
And
old-fashioned,
there's
old-time.
there's people that spend their entire weekend there waiting for stuff to come in, and I know one guy, and then he puts it on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh.
Next question, let's go.
Those darn Hingham people. Okay, BJ's gas station, Robert, from Gene Gunning. What's up with the BJ's gas station? Do we need another gas station? What will happen to the little guy gas station? And what about the traffic with the BJ gas station and will they be self-serve? I worked in Quincy and can say that the BJ's gas station there is a pain to drive by.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster over there.
The lines are long at times and out onto the street. People trying to drive by to cut off other people trying to exit the station. I and others have had near misses. If the entrance of BJ's is off of 53 up the hill, I can see many problems. I don't think the neighbors will like the traffic and car pollution. It sounds like you may agree. That's from Gene Gunning. So what's up with the BJ's gas station?
So this is a good question because it's very topical. We haven't not had this one before because it's topical. Okay. BJ's gas station came to town probably 4 or 5 years ago. They had a site that was across the street from them on property owned by RK Centers, and it was zoned for it. We weren't happy with the location. Under the zoning, we were not going to be able to stop it, but then we discovered it was on a I'm going to have the wrong terminology for our Conservation Commission bylaw definitions, but it was on I want to say water protection resource area. Believe it or not, There's a section out back there that's got something to do with one of the aquifers, river or something. But that precluded the gas station from going at the location. They wanted to do it next to Honey Ham, the old Honey Ham building, which is now
dialysis, I think.
yes. But the zoning supported it, but some wetlands protection bylaws precluded it. They have reemerged now, 4 or 5 years later, and have found a site on Washington Street. The gentleman that owns Master Glass, your buddy, owns that.
Yes, we do. The O'Brien clan.
And the zoning supports it. There was a gas station there.
What is the triangle where 53 and 18 meet?
No,
Okay.
no.
He owns that
Where
too,
the
I
old BP Sousa station was.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, he owns that?
Yes.
Oh, son of a gun.
So the zoning supports it. They're all over it. Interestingly, I know a lot of residents have those signs up in the neighborhood that are concerned, rightfully so. I do happen to know that the signs were purchased by another gas station owner who might not be as worried about children as he is about competition. And I think, they're like 50 cents cheaper a gallon over in Quincy. It's crazy. Now, I don't know how it works because
Tell me more.
I actually pulled in on the North Shore. I pulled into a BJ's Gas. I was coming from a hockey game, my kid's hockey game, and I needed gas. And there was this BJ's gas station right there, and they wouldn't serve me because I wasn't a BJ's member. Okay. Now, people have told me you don't have to be a BJ's member, but in that case, they told me I couldn't get gas. So I don't know. But anyway, I could do without it. I don't know if we need another gas station or not. We do live in a free enterprise, free market system based on competition. So I can't make the judgment call based on volume whether we need it or don't need it. But it's going to be a hard lift to prevent them from going into something that's zoned for it. I think there's some issues that may or may not relate to BZA. I'm not sure yet whether or not they have to approve it. There might be a special permit required, but again, it might be things under the law which they don't have a basis to reject depending upon the particulars of the proposal.
Bobby, how would it work? Because that's a great point. I think now that I realize where the location is in the area, I hope that was helpful. As always, we're getting a lot of photos sent in with our questions.
It's basically, what is it, next to the truck guy's store?
But the potential for lines out into the 53, I would imagine, would be formidable, which would be a problem. So how is that managed if lines develop there?
I think that's something that they're going to have to hash out when they actually, go through the process here.
So son of a gun, wow. And of course, it
would be...
the
legal basis is what it is. It's zoned for, it was a gas station, it's zoned for a gas station. There's other factors that may come into play here, yes, but you're not going to stop something that's zoned for something that they're applying for.
So essentially it's been an empty lot for the last 10 or 15 years then, right? Since that last
quite some time, yeah.
Bob, final question, because it was part of this question. Would it be self-serve or not? All Weymouth gas stations have to be full serve.
We have that old law that goes back to the 80s that requires attendance.
So that might affect the pricing as well.Maybe that's one reason why it's a little cheaper.
It could.
All right, well, that's a great question. So again, another one. We're going to be doing a lot of sequels, it looks like, relative to this. So we'll be staying close to this one, but it looks like it's going in the direction of a gas station if someone wants to put one there.
We'll see.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, my preference would be, I'd rather not see it, but we don't like empty lots either.
Yep, for sure.
And there's been more onerous gas station proposals here in town than this one, by the way, which you haven't read about, that we've kind of chased away.
So you don't intend to regulate the gas pricing in town like Kamala's going to do with the grocery store pricing in this town? Is it a whole new regime coming our way? All right, Robert. This one is a personal one. I think this is one of these you can either you can choose.
By the way, they said the little guy, the guy that printed the signs up. Not so little. I think the family has at least 3 gas stations in town and other property holdings, but
you're not
as big as BJ's, that's for sure.
You're not cast on how many gas stations you can own or run.
No.
Okay. All right, Robert. Instagram question from Mr. Danny Cummings. What does Mr. Headland use for hair care products? A lot of people in town are talking about this. What does Mr. Headland use for hair products? Danny, we want to remind you, it's Mayor Headland's hair care products. Mayor Headland, what do you use?
I buy the cheapest shampoo possible. I look at the unit price. It usually directs me to Suave. But then my kid thinks it's body wash. And it goes through about a bottle every 3 showers.
Hey now.
But now he's into a kick where he buys some expensive shampoo, which I refuse to pay for. I just ran out and I found an old bottle, almost congealing, of Johnson's baby shampoo. So that's what I'm using currently, but I found it laying around. I think this question really should have been directed at you, Jim. And can you get a close-up, please? And what hair care products you use?
I'll be happy to inform the viewers, I use Ivory soap.
So
I'm not that concerned.
I probably should add Rogaine to my repertoire.
If you get a discount, see if you can get us a discount.
Job is causing significant hair loss in me, but actually I had a friend that went on that years ago, and it was unbelievable. His hairline started going like this. Now it's down to like here. It looks like he's got a helmet.
What, because of hair implants?
No, Rogaine
that
stuff.
Rogaine works, huh?
It's a pill thing or something, and a topical. And I'm like, I don't like the idea of taking pills to make your hair grow. But anyway.
Only his hairdresser knows.
I don't know why he's so vain. He's old. He's been married for about 1 million years, and he's got 6 kids. Like, I wouldn't worry about it at that point.
The ship has sailed.
But there is a rumor that I've heard that I dye my hair. I think that came on
yeah,
the show one time.
Can we put one thing to rest, though? I got a question from an avid viewer who is on my softball team that asked me recently if I dye my hair. Could you step around in front of the camera and explain why I would have gotten that question? Do I look like the kind of guy that is that vain that would go to the trouble of dyeing my hair to appear on WETC? Do you think, you know me well enough, Jeff, would I dye my hair?
I would say that's a good question.
But I don't. Just because the beard came in gray, my hair's not gray yet. It's getting a little bit, but it's not like yours.
All right, yeah, I've been gray for quite some time, and we're happy to be in Ivory soap.
It's
a success.
I treat my hair care budget like I treat your tax dollars. Very, very thrifty. Go.
Okay, Robert, moving right along. A Facebook question. Boy, we're being besieged
what?
by a Facebook question. We're being besieged by the digital age. Robert, from Beverly Gillis Sellers. Exactly what date does the Wausagasset Walk start construction? Can't wait to not look at that mess anymore. So there's a Wausagasset Walk being built, Bob. when are they starting the construction?
So real quick, this is something we started on my first year in office. So this has been a 9-year, 8.5-year process thus far. First was the initial grant. Second, from Seaport Economic Development. That was for money towards design work. Then it was a series of community meetings, which were difficult. That took quite some time. Then we had to piece together the funding to get to the next step, where we got a second round of grants from the Seaport Economic Development Council, but it was only like $1 million. This is an $8 million plus $9 million project, I think, or actually more now. So when we started out on this, we really didn't want to impact our capital spending plan. Unlike Hingham, that every capital project they do an override for, we didn't want to raise taxes to do this.
Yay.
So we've been working on various funding sources, and we have a mix of probably 4 or 5. And I think we should do another development update on this, because it's really been amazing how we piece together the funding. I think we've used some ARPA money, we've used some CPA money, we used the host community agreement from the compressor station. We've used 2 different Seaport Economic Development grants, and we got a federal earmark. So there's at least 5, I believe, thus far. So I think if you go back in the archives, we did do an early development update. We're definitely behind schedule a little bit on what the target date was. The last time I updated people, I said we would be doing this, did I say September? After the beach season? That got delayed a little bit because we did get the bids in, and we were happy with the bids. We were scared. We thought the bids were going to come in way over our estimates based on the design work. They came in pretty good. The contract called for a start in September, I believe. We had to ask the contractor to not hold us to the contractor because we did have to delay. And I believe now we're looking at possibly first week in November, I think. It might be October.
So it's happening.
Yes. But the reason for the delay was tying up that last round of funding, which was a federal earmark. So I just summarized it by saying it was paperwork issue both on what we had to provide the feds and how we plugged that into legally accepting it and getting council approval to spend it. So that cost us a couple months.
And the walk, Bob.
So she's going to see action. And I saw something today, by the way, on social media. Not that anyone that pops off on Facebook watches this show, because if they did, they wouldn't ask the same questions every week. But yes, work at the shelf is part of this. That will be cleaned up. The big part of this is getting the invasive species out so that you get part of your view restored. So yes, it's happening.
And the walk goes to the breadth of the...
It's two components, three components really. The shelf area gets cleaned up from the mess that was left behind when they demolished everything there years back, and the stairs and all that. That'll link up with Great Hill. You got the beach connection part of it, but the big part of it is the coastal embankment stabilization and armoring our coast.
Sounds awesome. All right,
So,
so
yes.
it's well worth the wait then, it sounds like. And it's happening.
This was on the town's priority list going back to the 70s.
Holy smokes, wow.
Going back to the 70s.
Wow, wow. And it's the construction process will probably last a year?
Well, we have to work around, it's
Yeah, it sounds like
permitting
a
on
lot
this.
of moving balls.
Actually, I left out part of the delay, not delay, but part of the timeline of this was significant. Probably the most significant impact was permitting. There's like 11 agencies involved in permitting because we're dealing with the coast.
And they're not all town agencies.
Coast Guard,
obviously, yeah.
CZM,
Holy
EPA,
smokes.
you name it.
Wow, wow. All right, well, it's going to be awesome when it's done, it sounds like. And the shelf is where I wrote my Weymouth song from.
And it took
The
a while
inspiration.
really to get all the neighbors on board. At the end, I think most of them, if not all, were happy.
Robert, moving right along. The theme again is the digital age from Facebook and from Patty Frank Conway. Mayor, is there anything new in development on Route 3A vacant buildings? Is there anything new in the development of the Route 3A vacant buildings? That's a long question.
If I had a nickel for every developer that's knocked on the door of Tufankshin and Sid from the 3A Motel, now the Arbor Inn, I'd be able to retire, okay? Sid's willing to sell. I'm assuming part of this is directed at that. Sid's willing to sell. It's only 30,000 square feet, so you can't really do much. You really need the Tufankshin property. And there's some really awesome developers, not fly-by-night guys, but some really good developers that have national tenants they could put in there tomorrow.
Retail tenants.
Tufankshin won't sell. I believe he will sell at some point. I won't get into it again. We've talked about it. There's family issues, his business type issues that are impacting it, but at some point he will sell. We've taken away his license for the car dealership
sell
there.
cars.
He's a good guy, and I feel bad, but that's where we're at. Panda Rug, I don't know if I'd say he's a good guy. He hasn't been the most cooperative in the past, from what I understand, but you know, he doesn't want to sell.
What do they do? Why
There
don't
is
they?
activity. I mean, we've got 2 blighted properties in my mind that, you know, are being redeveloped. One was completed where the old abandoned gas station was. Speaking of gas stations, I think that building is not imposing. It looks good. It's clean. You know, it got a blighted property off the books. It certainly helped with new growth on our tax levy. You got the old garden center site, which is now under construction. That got a relatively good response from neighbors and the district councilor. That's being built. The same people, generally, it's a different owner, but same group of guys, bought the Cigar City site. They have come in with some plans for that preliminary. The problem with that site, it's not very deep, and I'm concerned about any significant changes down there that the neighbors wouldn't accept, because you got an active neighborhood behind there. But they want to redevelop that site, and that building looks like garbage now. I mean, it's been beat since I was a little kid driving by there, and there's been some really funky operations there. A friend of mine, actually, a kid I grew up with, had a wood lot there. We've had used trucks there. We've had everything. So there's a potential for redevelopment there. There's a blighted property across the street, an old abandoned foundation, near Abu Zaid's old upholstery shop, next to Fossil Fuel there, 2 doors down from that place I think you visit a lot, Amazing Express.
Can't keep me out of there.
2 doors over from there, that's blighted, that was just purchased by the same guy doing Quincy Adams Garden Center. The problem is They need an easement from us, and we're trying to work something out to, do something with that site, because that's an eyesore. So there's things happening on 3A, but I think the ones that they don't mention, but I think they are thinking about are the ones would really see something happen. And the overlay we did starts at U-Haul and goes towards Hingham. So there's more flexibility on the zoning up there, which made Sid's property and made Tufanktion's property more valuable for redevelopment purposes.
Sure. Bob, I don't understand the logic of somebody who holds these properties for decades and they leave them blighted. Are they tax incentives or something?
I don't want to get into that. No, I don't want to get into that, but he's got some family issues and supposedly, and then business considerations on how Toyota viewed his franchise and all this other stuff.
But all these other ones that have been empty for so long, I just don't understand why they don't sell them and make a buck and move on. A variety of issues.
Clearly, he doesn't need the money.
Okay, there you go. All right, well, listen, I know we're on the back end of the show, Rob, but we've been able to really get through quite a few questions, and we're running out of time here, but I think we do have time for one more, so I'm going to try to get this in. And again, we're flying through the social media category. This is from an unidentified social media entrant, and it's from the great Michael Joyce, Juice Joyce, one of the best in town. Dear Mr. Mayor, it seems that no matter what happens in town, from parks being built to roads being paved, to various town-wide celebrations, there seems to be no way to please everybody. Does that make sense so far? The various town social media pages seem to be full of negativity and venom on an almost daily basis, no matter what the subject may be. Is there anything you'd want the citizens of Weymouth to know about before they rip a new project to shreds? Is there anything you'd want the citizens of Weymouth to know about before they rip a new project to shreds? So I think he shares your philosophy, Bob. Social media isn't overly positive. What do they need to know about, anything new that's happening before the town starts overreacting negatively?
I don't know.
You can't keep those people
So
down.
my general thoughts about social media is I'm kind of active on it. I'm not on all of the town sites, but, like I popped off on my personal Facebook page today about something happening on Beacon Hill. So I go on there and I vent.
Sure.
But my observations from the town pages, what I find is, and today was a good example of it, with people asking about the shelf. There's information out there, and people don't access it.
Yeah.
They limit themselves to gossip pages to try to learn or to try to vent. When obviously they don't read newspapers anymore generally. There's resources like WETC, and again, they're probably not watching this because if they did, they'd know the answers to a lot of the things they pop off about. There's definitely a heightened sense of negativity on those. I think social media is hurting us in a lot of ways. What I find over time is that a lot of the people that are complaining about things don't even live in Weymouth anymore, and this is their link to the town. Yes, they get sentimental, they see something changing, and they comment on it, and usually don't have an understanding in a significant way about the particulars of it. Then you have, more of a knee-jerk reaction on social media, from the keyboard warriors. I think a good example of that lately would be Columbian Square. There's a lot of squawking on Columbian Square, but it's like you guys put a drone shot up, and they think we tricked them about the time that you took the drone shot or something. But, how about let it play out and see what it's like when it's done. Some of the things that people were beefing about are not accurate, like the center line's not set yet. There's going to be things that are going to be completed. They're going to make some of the complaints look silly at the end of the day, okay? Now, there were some legitimate complaints, and I'll be honest with you, as it took shape, using, again, Columbian Square as an example, and segueing into this, I guess we're getting off a little bit from the topic, but I was it was jarring for me when I saw how it was taking shape, because it's one thing to look at a plan, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm not a designer, I'm not an architect, whatever, but we did bring the owner of the company in. Mr. Cole came down and agreed that, some alterations needed to be made, which have cost us, I think, about a month and a half in delays that they agreed to eat most of. So yeah, some of the stuff was legit and has been tweaked, but goes to my point, can you wait till it's done? I guess the good example of how stupid people can be on social media, using Columbian Square as an example, when the elderly woman drove her car through the front of the
To the nail salon.
nail salon,
Yeah.
Think about this. There was new curbing put in.
Which is about 2 feet tall.
You only had the base coat of the road down, so the height was even higher than it's been traditionally on the curb because the top coat wasn't even on.
Cost me $700 when I pulled into that with my truck bumper.
She went through the front of the store.
Which is impossible. How did she get over that 2 foot?
They were
foot
blaming,
curb?
people were blaming the design.
Yeah.
We didn't change where the parking was over there. How do you blame the design of someone driving a car through the front of the
that should
store?
have stopped her. That
That's
should have
just,
stopped her
there's
vehicle,
crazy
obviously.
stuff on there. There's completely crazy stuff on there.
Yeah, but that
And
thing-
it can drive you crazy, which is why I'm off all the sites except one. And I noticed Mr. Joyce, I believe he's one of the moderators, has gotten kind of frustrated with the nonsense, and I think they've tamped down on that on there.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he sent it in. I know he's talked about that in the past. Well, there's certainly...
Being a moderator looks like it could be a full-time job there, though.
I know we have to wrap up the show, Robert, because I certainly would like to talk about Columbian Square at length as a guy who drives through there every day, and there's definitely some things that need to be talked about. But as I know you know, the great Abraham Lincoln, the original Republican, said, you can please some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time.
You can, remember, I like to paraphrase the greatest president of all, Abraham Lincoln. We can please some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time.
And I did.
Time
That
to
wasn't
paraphrase.
Abraham Lincoln.
That's a paraphrase, Abraham Lincoln. You can... Something along those lines. It's a Lincoln
Maybe it
quote.
was.
Anyway, another Lincoln quote is this: a lot of good in the best of us and a lot of bad in the worst of us. No, a lot of good in the worst of us and bad in the best of us. But Barbara, on that note, I think they're telling us to shut it down, and it seems like this is a good time to do it. As always, we appreciate the cards and letters coming in. Please keep them coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com. First time that I've said that without them putting a sign up.
What are we going to close with?
How
How about this? Since we ended on social media,
Yes. Stay tuned for...
you get your choice. Joe Jackson Sunday Papers or Halloween I Want Out.
I want
Your
Joe
call.
Jackson. That what was that album? The one we get
Nobody reads the
Sunday
papers
Papers.
anymore.
What was that album? That was such a great album. You got to look sharp. Look sharp.
I'm the Man was the name of
I'm the man. I'm the man. That close out with that. And stay tuned for the Rifleman.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.
But every weekend through the door come words of wisdom